Hello, today I'm going to be talking about overwhelm or flooding in your marriage or relationship, what exactly it is and how it could be impacting your relationship negatively if this behavioral trait is coming up, and how to spot the signs of flooding and what to do about it. If you get some good stuff out of today's video, please hit that notification bell, subscribe to my channel, and give the video a like. And that way you'll be first in line for when a new video on building a resilient marriage or relationship comes down the pipe. For those of you that are new here, welcome. And for the returning visitors, thank you for coming back. My name is Elizabeth Ritchie. I'm a registered clinical counselor and certified life coach. And for many years, I have helped individuals, mostly women and couples and families, work through blocks that were holding them back from living their most fulfilled and happy lives. So let's get into it. What is flooding? How can it be impacting you? And what to do about it if this is happening? So what flooding is, in a nutshell, is when you are triggered maybe by a hot button topic discussion with your spouse or partner. And it's when your rational brain shuts down and your emotions take over. And so you can imagine in any situation like that, where you're talking about something contentious or difficult, that you stop thinking with logic and reason and you just get into kind of a defensive emotional stance. You're going to see things like criticism, stonewalling, which is just like shutting down, not engaging, or sort of attacking back to your partner if you become flooded. Now, Dr. John Gottman, who is a leading researcher in relationship counseling and couples counseling, I've got his book here actually, 10 Principles for Doing Effective Couples Counseling Therapy, and it's a great book. So in his book, he talks about the research that he has done on couples, where him and his team have put couples into apartments and studied them over time for how they interact with each other, and have also measured their physiological signs as well. So like what their heart rate is, what their blood pressure is, are they sweating, are they nervous, do they pace around, do they fidget, that kind of thing. So what him and his team did, is that they would ask a couple to discuss sort of a hot button topic, a contentious or difficult subject for them in their relationship, and then he monitored all these signs. And so of course he found, when it became a challenging topic, then, or discussion, the heart rate would go up, the blood pressure would go up, sweating may increase, people may get fidgeting, other people may just shut down, so they could just be sitting on the couch slumped over, but inside their mind is racing and their heart is pounding. And so he measured these things, and then what he would do is go into the room and interrupt the couple and say, look, we're having technical difficulties, can you take a break? And so a couple would go and have a pause, take a break. They would calm down, they'd go outside, flip through a magazine or something, take a little walk. And of course, their blood pressure would drop, their heart rate would drop, they would feel much calmer. Then he would ask them to go back into the apartment where the research was, underway, where they were studying them. And then he would ask them to re-engage in that conversation, in that discussion. So, the couples that were able to re-engage using their rational brain and not get flooded, because now they were calmer and they, were thinking better. And if they were able to work through that without getting flooded and work through that difficult conversation, that was a good predictor of relationship success. For the couples that, when they were asked to speak about the topic again, if they got caught in sort of that flooding behavior, then that was a predictor of divorce. They couldn't get past that sort of block in their relationship. Have you experienced flooding before when having a difficult conversation with your spouse or partner? Or have you seen it in your own partner? Maybe you haven't been flooded, but you can see them becoming flooded. If you have had that experience, please share in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. All right, so we know what flooding is. We know how it impacts us physiologically in our body. We know that it can be a detriment to our relationship if this is occurring. So what can we do about it? Well, there's a couple of things that we can do. And the first thing is to notice, as with the question that I just asked, the first thing is to notice when you are becoming flooded yourself. So notice what your signs and symptoms of becoming flooded are. So it might be that you get maybe red in the face, or you find that you're gripping your hands together tightly, or holding your hands or your body tightly. Or it could be that you're sweating or your heart rate increases. So some of those things, those physical symptoms that we talked about. So notice it, and then you tell yourself, I'm getting flooded right now. Then what can you do? Well, then you can take some deep breaths. Just take some deep breaths and try to calm the situation down. If your partner's the one becoming flooded, then you're noticing that they're becoming flooded, and what are their behaviors and what are their physical symptoms, and take some deep breaths while you're noticing that. The other thing you can do is what we touched on before with the research by Dr. John Gottman in the apartments with the couples, was you request to take a break. So you ask to have a pause in the conversation and take a break. And so maybe it's just a pause to go get a glass of cold water, or it's a pause of a couple hours where you say, let's just put this on ice for now, but let's discuss it after dinner tonight when we're both feeling a bit calmer. So there's a couple things that you can do. Another good idea, if you've got a really difficult situation to talk about, I've suggested this with couples that I've worked with before, or with women who are not sure how to bring certain situations up, is to do it in a neutral place. So if you need to talk about something, maybe going to a coffee shop or going out for a nice meal. So you're in a neutral setting where both of you are going to work a bit harder at not getting flooded and keeping the conversation calm. Another tool really that you could use in a situation like this where you need to talk about something contentious is if both of you are quick to get flooded and to engage that emotional response, is you just slow everything down, and you could have a piece of paper where you write down your thoughts about what you think, and then you pass it to your partner, and then they write it down and they pass it back. So you're slowing everything down. You're giving yourself time to pause within the discussion and to not be reactive. So again, we're trying to get out ahead of it, be proactive. And the real takeaway is that you want to learn the signs of flooding, you want to pause and take a break when they happen, but you always want to come back to this difficult issue. So you don't want to just sweep it under the rug and then never talk about it again because it got everybody all prickly and fired up. When you do that, that's avoidant behavior. And what happens is that thing under the rug, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So, discuss it with your partner and say, look, I can't talk about this right now. Let's just give it a rest, and maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow at, this time, and schedule a time when you are going to resume this discussion. All right, so now you know what to do if you get flooded. You know what signs to look for in yourself or your partner, and you know how it negatively impacts a relationship if this keeps occurring and you're not able to work through it. So if you try all these things, these tools that I talked about and techniques, and you're still struggling, there's a couple things you could do. You might want to involve a third party, so somebody else to support you. So that could be a counselor, a therapist, a relationship coach, whatever works for you. If you are interested in getting support right away, you can also contact my team at support@elizabethritchie.com, and you can book a complimentary breakthrough session with me, and we can talk about how maybe I could be of assistance to you. The other thing you might like to check out is our Facebook group. It's called Revitalized Relationships. It's for women, and I will put the link to that in the section below the video. So if you got some good stuff out of today's video, hit that notification bell, give the video a like, subscribe to my channel for more on keeping your relationships thriving and healthy. All right, we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.